we'll take to the next one, which is Suresha Sharanam Sharma Vishwareta Prajabhavaha Aha Samvatsaro Vyaalah Pratyaya Sarvadarshanaha. Aha, or one who is luminous. Aha means day. Aha is also one who is effulgent and bright. Lord Vishnu is self-effulgent, which means he's not like a planet where some light of other stars and sun is reflected, but he's self-effulgent like a star, and he's the only self-effulgent entity in existence. Or in some way there is hint here that even the energy in the star comes through Lord Vishnu itself, and we'll appreciate a little more as we go into discovering more things today in few more names. And he's the primary source of light and heat energy up to the universe. All bright objects of the universe derive their brightness and heat energy only from this primary reservoir of light and energy. So again, so he's the primary source of light and heat energy to the universe. All bright objects of the universe derive their brightness and heat energy only from this primary reservoir of light and energy. We'll try the next one, which is Samvatsarah, one who is the form of time. Samvatsarah is a measure and a symbol of time, and hence the Lord is also called Samvatsarah. Lord Krishna says in Vishwarupa Sandarshana Yoga of Bhagavad Gita, which is chapter 11, shloka 32, Kalosmi Loka Kriti. I am the time, or the Kala, who is going to destroy the universe at the appropriate time. We'll go to the next one and revisit this one and make everything closer to our hearts as we learn more. So Vyaalah, or one who is difficult to grasp like the snake. Vyaalah means snake. He is snake-like, as he is slippery to the non-believers or the Nastikas. Lord Vishnu is infinite as well as infinitesimal. Verily, he is a snake to the Nastikas. So there is one angle of looking at it. The other angle of the snake is he is a portion of ignorance behind knowledge also. Or he, if in the absence, or it's the dormancy of knowledge that has not evolved out of you, that has remained in you, like a snake, a coil that is yet to transform. Few of the other parallels that you will come across in the Upanishadic statements is when you are walking in darkness. These are citations I'm quoting from Upanishads as to how they talk of things they are discovering through their discussions with their peer groups, and sharing that yes, even I experience the same, even I'm experiencing the same as what you're telling. As they go through that kind of a debate within their group of experts, they talk of, oh, I was walking into this darkness and I always thought that it was a snake and I was afraid to go there. But as I got closer and only on investigation, which means I took a stick and poked at it, then I found that it's not a snake, but it is a rope. So only not bringing your knowledge to the observation that you're doing is the one that will come through. So you could imagine this as more of the analogy of dormancy of knowledge and the effulgence of knowledge that is coming through, rather than a real symbolic snake on its own. Okay. So we'll revisit this Samvatsarah again and try to gain an appreciation of, is there truth to it? What is this? He's going to consume the whole universe. Through him is where the universe has come. So let's really try to see, is there truth to it? Or is it just a myth, right? Mythology, or is there any underlying base around which such statements are made in the Hindu philosophy? You got so many religions. Maybe Hinduism as a religion is completely false. It's incongruent to the new sciences that we have discovered, and it's completely laughable, right? I mean, when the new discoveries come, there have been so many other tribes and belief system that has been completely diluted through science, because for human mind, it has to stand the rationality of its agreement to its logic and acceptance. And once that tarka, logic, rationale, it doesn't hold, you don't feel there is right, and you don't subscribe to it any longer in terms of a belief system, and you go on to something else. You don't stay on. So let's see if what is so much. Is there truth, or is it some story like other religions that we are only asked to follow because it's there in the book, or is it opening up itself to the human faculties of questioning, of curiosity? Let's try to get that understand and bring it a little closer to the heart also of what we cited earlier in our prayers of Vishnu Sahasranama, where we quoted of Vyasa Uvacha, Vasana Vasudevasya Vasitam Te Jagatrayam. All three worlds reside inside you, and all creatures also are come off you or reside in you. Let's understand that in terms of Kala. So here so just bear with me all those little highlights. It's from a book called The Tao of Physics. There's a Swedish scientist who, I go back to that Hadron Collider. It's the same scientist whose YouTube video we saw in one of our earlier plays, where he talked of his experience of Shiva, which means he's not a religious person. He needs high scientific mind who need to go and explore. Just like we spoke about the snake and the rope analogy, even they are trying to go into places where they don't know what is there, which is where Einstein, when he has to write annual appraisal of his students, to one of them he writes I think it's called, he's called Paul Dirac, a mathematician, wonderful mathematician, where he applies math even to the typical knitting that girls do, right? I mean, at least in my home, where you do a weaving of wool and bring forth a kind of garment like a sweater or a muffler or a scarf. So he observes that in one of his hosts for the dinner, and he applies math and goes back home and comes back with a stretchable stitch or a way of waving. So he's not only a mathematician in his head who's only theoretical, but he's able to take those theories and reapply to math. So in his annual appraisal, Einstein talks of this, again coming back to the snake and rope analogy, where you have a lot of unknowns and you're going into discovering that. And when you're the first to discover, and it is so illogical, other persons will never accept it. They feel you are mad. So Einstein writes that in this field of study that we are into, we need a degree of madness. In this field of nuclear physics that we are into, or the particle physics we are into, we need a degree of madness. But in case of Paul, I really am convinced he is mad. But meaning he's discovering things which is not at all making sense. But much later, Einstein himself says, oh, I should have known more about Paul. What he's saying is right. So you discover things much later and then agree to the citations that were there. So same kind of high scientific minds is what you require when you're trying to go into fathoming things which are completely undigestible. So this book, Tower of Physics, is where I picked up. So here he's trying to say about the universe. So if you take a balloon and just put few dots on it, take a small pen and make multiple dots on it. And as you start blowing the balloon, one you will see is those dots which were so close together when you had no air in the balloon, they start moving apart. The dots, the distance between the dots move apart. And the moving apart is so much that if you go to the edge of the balloon, the very surface of the balloon, compared to one which is closer to where you're blowing the air into the balloon, the nozzle area of the balloon, you will see those pieces or those dots are moving away much further, much faster than the one which are closer to the nozzle. And not only that, you'll also see that those dots, surface area also have increased. So which is where I'll just read those red boxes. Just to bring it in context to what we are talking about, which is Samvatsarah. So I'll just read it out so that it's easy for us. So as far as the future, this is Einstein's quotation of the universe and the measure that he's having, where some of the Newtonian physics of push and pull are not holding any longer. They're finding it differently. So Einstein came up with this theory of relativity, in which he talked of universe is sitting on a fabric and not just it's a wave than anything else. So let me read this here. So as far as the future of the expanding universe is concerned, Einstein's equations do not provide a unique answer. They allow for several different solutions corresponding to the different models of the universe. Some models predict that the expansion will continue forever. According to others, it is slowing down and will eventually change into a contraction. These models describe an oscillating universe expanding for billions of years, then contracting until its total mass has condensed into a small ball of matter, then expanding again, so on without an end. And I'll go to the next red box, which is essentially a quote of Bhagavad Gita that this Swedish scientist is giving. He talks of, at the end, this is Krishna's side, Bhagavad Gita, I think comes in chapter 11 to how I recall. At the end of the night of time, this is Krishna saying to Arjuna, or Bhagavan is where we are contradicted to earlier. At the end of the night of time, all things return to my nature. And when the new day of time begins, I bring them again into light. Thus, through my nature, I bring forth all creation, and all this rolls around in the circle of time. But I am not bound by this vast work of creation. I am, and I watch the drama of works. I watch, and in its work of creation, nature brings forth all that moves, and also those that moves not. And thus, the revolutions of the world go round. Yeah, I'll let you revisit this and comprehend better, but let's try to bring it a little more closer, and we'll read some more of it, and let's put some math around it. So how does that go? So this is the other part in which they're saying, okay, you're saying I'm in planet Earth and I have 365 days, I'm rotating around. We have had for generations, we earlier talk about this pale blue dot, where it perhaps captured the spirit of humanity from the time where we only see ruins today, like the temples of the Acropolis of the Athens and whatnot, but there was civilization much earlier too. However bad or good, we don't know, because we only have read so much, and those are fathomed have appreciation, those are fathomed differently have despise for some of the things that were experienced or what they have interpreted. But that pale blue dot has been the home of many things. So here it talks of, in this illustration, is to how did everything start? And this is the Indian philosophy of saying. So if you go to the certain period, they didn't have a calendar. They only talked of in context of people, right? And in the Indian system, they recognize this. And in some of the homes who are very, how do I say, orthodox in nature, they do these prayers and offering to God every morning. And one of the what we call slokas, they say, talks of I am so and so, and I belong to this clan, and here I am in this location, on in this planet Earth, and within the planet Earth I belong to this continent. In the Vedic terms is how it's explained. But one of the beautiful thing it says is, this is my location in terms of place or space. In space, this is where I am, but in time, where are you? You need two dimensions, so both time and space. So in space dimension, you say Jambudvipe, Bharatakande, Shalivan, Shike, all that, right? So that part is what they put it. But in terms of time too, they introduce, and they don't say I'm in 2014, 2024, whatever, nor have they got their own calendar of something else, but they say I am in the 51st year of Brahma. So let's understand what that is, and also bring a little more closer to our hearts and appreciation to the philosophy that we are all born into. Let's understand it better, cherish it better, and criticize it also, right? It has to be close to our heart and also minds. It needs to stand up to our arguments, and not, as Einstein had put it, in his case, he's really mad. We want to prove it's mad, and if it's not mad, let's learn why it's not mad. So the first lines here, it says, space and time carries us as water carries the fish. We are contained within and caught by its intentions and devices. We are contained within and caught by its intentions of both space and time, and the devices that it brings. This is Pleroma. Of course, Pleroma talks of the Nirvana stage, in which it says where even space and time doesn't exist, you are going to be in that Nirvana situation where even the devices and intentions of space and time, or your karma, as a word that we have used, is no longer applicable. So there is the definition, but let's understand what is the space and time, or at least time, a little better. So here, the way the mythology statement goes is, God creates the universe, Lord Vishnu creates the universe, and in that universe, he installs the very Brahma through whose navel he has come forth, and into that Brahma, he makes him preside over that universe. So what's that universes we talked of? He's going to consume as well. And to that Brahma, he offers 100 years. We talked of 51 year is where we are. 51st year is where our current time is, as per the Hindu tradition. But Brahma totally has 100 years. Now, what does that 100 years mean for us human years? So these 100 years, there is one notion that says it's not 365 days, but it's 100 days of 1 year and 100 years. So each day of Brahma is again projected as 1000 Mahayugas. So 1000 Mahayugas make up 1 day of Brahma. And those 1000 Mahayugas are again 10 yugas. So in those 10 yugas, you have 1 yuga. And what is that yuga? That yuga is cut into 4 quarters. Each name there, Kali, Dvapara, Treta, Krita. Right? Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. So each one, there's a claim, belongs to a dice throw, a game of dice, and each has a statement, which means there's so much of philosophy that is included into day-to-day practices and traditions. So these are also included into dice game, and dice game also has the same thing where Kali is some zero, which means all thing you won is lost. It's a moment that throw of dice comes. So it starts from there of each one, or each 4 quarters are not equal. You have one portion which is about 432,000 human years, which is the time it takes for Earth to go around the sun. Then 2 times of that is the Dvapara Yuga, 3 times that is Treta Yuga, 4 times that is Krita Yuga. But it starts from the top, which is Krita Yuga, and the morality there is very high. So the gradation is here, Krita, Treta Yuga, the way as it comes down is the depletion of the dharma, is how it is told, which means our capacity to seek each other, appreciate each other, take each other's viewpoint, find growth in each other's personality, starts depleting from the Krita Yuga to the Kali Yuga. So that's how it is seen. The Kali Yuga by itself, it is told, it was started as, it clocked in 3000 BC, right? From Dvapara Yuga to Kali Yuga, it started in 3000 BC is the measure. So from there on, right now, which means we are in the Kali Yuga, and we have about 4,000 or 432,000. But from there on, once that Kali Yuga comes in, it goes into a cycle. And what is that cycle? It again goes to Krita Yuga. That means you got 1 yuga, which goes into these 4 cycles. So the total life, if you add up all of those, 1 yuga becomes the 4,000 or 4,320,000 years. And that 4,320,000 years is 1 day of Brahma. If you see the circle at the bottom, only the left half, the day, is so much, which means he also goes into the night where Brahma is going to sleep, which means for those time of equal 4 million years of Earth years, is when Brahma sleeps. That means there is no creation. So that whole creation is consumed after those 4 million years. Now, when it consumes, what happens? I'll try to quickly read through this So bear with me. This is again to enjoy as much as possible. In this Indian conception, I'm reading from a book called The Myths and Symbols in Indian Art and Civilization. This is from Zimmerman, Heinrich Zimmerman. Even before his book was published, he died out of pneumonia. It's a student who found when they were cleaning up his rooms, all things that he had made notes. They brought those notes together and published this book. It's all based off his notes, and that notes book is where I'm reading. This is available in the library if you need to borrow. So in this Indian conception of the process of destruction, the regular course of the Indian year, which is fierce heat and drought alternating with torrential rain, is magnified to such a degree that instead of sustaining, it demolishes its existence. So you always have experienced summer and rain, but it amplifies so much. Both of them amplify so much. Instead of sustaining, it starts destroying. The warmth that normally ripens and the moisture that nourishes, when alternating in beneficent and cooperation, now annihilates. Vishnu begins the terrible last work by pouring his infinite energy into the sun. We earlier spoke of how Vishnu is the self-effulgent one. He's not a planet, but he's the sun behind the sun. So he puts in more energy into the sun is what is cited here. He himself becomes the sun. With its fierce, devouring rays, he draws into himself the eyesight of every animate being. The whole world dries up with withers, the earth splits, and through deep fissures a deadly blaze of heat licks at the divine waters of the subterranean abyss. So all of that water in that heat is evaporated, and in a very poetic way it says Vishnu comes and licks it up and he consumes, which was the other Bhagavad Gita shloka that we read a moment ago from the Swedish scientist, I think Frijo Capra, that's his name. So these are caught up and swallowed. And when the life sap has entirely vanished from both the egg-shaped cosmic body and all the bodies of its creatures, Vishnu becomes the wind. So first he becomes the heat and fire, and then next he becomes the wind. So it's talking of all these 4 yugas have culminated. Brahma has finished his day and he's going into the night. At that evening point, what happens is this cosmic consumption of unity of forces that are becoming here. So first it was heat and fire, then comes the wind. The cosmic life breath is how it is called. This cosmic life breath and pulls out all the creatures, the enliving air. Like desiccated leaves, the sheer substance of the universe leaps into the cyclone. Friction ignites the whirling tumult of highly inflammable matter. The god has turned into fire. All goes up in gigantic conflagration, then sinks into smoldering ashes. So he has burnt everything has gone into wind and it's turned into ashes. And what happens next? So heat happened, air happened, and next, finally, in the form of great cloud, Vishnu sheds a torrential rain, sweet and pure as milk, to quench the conflagration of the world. The scorched and the suffering body of the earth knows at last its ultimate relief, final extinction, nirvana. So that's what is happening. It's culminating into a quietness. So under the floods of the god becomes rain, it is taken back into the primal ocean from which it arose at the universal dawn. So it goes back to the very beginning of time, which is Brahma's. We got this 100 years, but here you're only talking of a day of Brahma, and you got 100 years of 100 days. So many times the same cycle keeps happening again and again is what is told here. But I'll pause it. I think we short of a little time there. But overall, this was just an exposition to that name of Samvatsarah, and how the philosophy captures Samvatsarah, how science too, the rationality with which science is finding things, it is echoed in the same words within the philosophy as well as a religion or the tradition as well, where we have inculcated it into each of our own practices, into our own civilization, where we have accepted Vishnu as the force into which everything goes and culminates, and through which comes forth everything, and essentially given it 3 names: Achyutaya Namaha, Anantaya Namaha, Govindaya Namaha. Achyuta is your ever pure, which means we talked of how even the karmic thing or the time space, when this came into the pleroma, it doesn't apply there. So which means he's Achyuta, nothing else stops, though everything is doing, but in another time dimension, anything you do has a cause and effect. And Ananta is eternal, which means all this consumption can happen and new evolution can come, but one thing that remains constant as the witness across is Vishnu, which is the Ananta, and Govinda is the very force that comes into the sense and sensing objects, which is things that you feeling things, and in the things are energies that can be felt, and that is the sense objects and the sense itself. So with that, let's sit straight and move into